I am reading from my new book of poems called First Light, Last Light by Shadowpaw Press of Regina. The first poem I'm going to read is one called Stay in Touch. This is a poem that was written because we had that very unnerving time called the COVID crisis, when we were actually encouraged not to be in touch with people. How often have we uttered these words with friends or kin as we bid them a safe trip, then draw them to us, enclose them a moment as if we need that physical certainty, the other's heartbeat, on the unthinkable possibility that this embrace could be the last. Perhaps it is our desire to keep the ones we love safe by saying, stay, when we have already acknowledged they must leave. Stay in touch, we implore, because love is every bit as physical as it is psychological or spiritual. We should not need a pandemic to verify the truth of this. The next poem is called The Whistler, and it's one of many poems I have written about my father, who died when I was only 22 years old. So I've spent most of my life without him and remembering him. My father loved to whistle. When he was off alone, working on one project or another, you might well have been drawn to his odd, unidentifiable sounds before realizing my father was making them. My aunt told me father had a powerful baritone, but as he aged, he sang less and less. So I remember little singing, much more of his whistling, which was a different matter entirely. This whistling, when he was alone, was by no means virtuosic. You might have called my father a closet whistler, unintentional, the sound akin to praying or chanting, semi-tuneless, at times reminiscent of the sound wind makes when it sets telephone wires thrumming. I don't know when he began this private, toneless whistling, but I do know he was capable, when he chose, to whistle unrecognizable melodies with a touch of musical verve. I would happen upon him, and when he became conscious of my presence, he'd stop his whistle hum, either speak to me or busy himself with what he was doing. I never thought to ask about his peculiar whistling. Some days, my wife questions my humming sounds and wonders why I can't sing like normal people. I am a bird lover, and I spend as much time as I can observing birds and animals in their natural environment. When I'm walking in the morning, I often have opportunity to stop and watch what the world of birds and animals are doing. One-sided conversation. A bohemian waxwing perches on an arm of the small green ash. I stop. Gray-brown is usually uninviting, but early sun slants can enliven even the muted slate tones. A jaunty blue jay arrives, picks a seat on the same ash, a few feet from the other, and begins to prattle as jays are prone to do, with neither provocation nor invitation. Whatever the jay may ask or demand, the waxwing remains mum, while the jay flits branch to branch, seeking, interrogating, but receiving no apparent shred of revelation. Frustrated by its companion's reluctance to disclose a single morsel of useful news, the jay utters a few squawks and flops off in search of a more receptive audience. Many poems come just out of experience. They happen to you. And this one happened to me one night after a reading. I was being driven to my hotel by the host of the reading, and this is what happens. She begins to slow the car as the highway approaches the descent into the river valley. Usually deer along this stretch of road. In the pale wash of headlights, as if invoked from the darkness, two mule deer in slow motion step up the embankment, intent on crossing. We follow our own lights, our own pathways. Deer and other animals follow theirs. If we are fortunate, our ways do not conflict with theirs. She shows the patience of one who is at home with the night's animals, slows the vehicle to a crawl. The deer stop, heads up, spot-lit silhouettes. They wait for us to creep past. I see them here, often, is all she says, as we slowly continue across the river, up the slope to the other side. She does not begrudge this sharing her time, this space, and this night with all of these nocturnal creatures who must travel through it. This poem is called My Right Leg as Target, and this is a medical poem. After the first few needles into my knee, numbers become irrelevant. Easy to lose count. 6, a dozen. Just lie back and pretend it is entirely normal to lie supine on an examining table here in your vascular specialist's office, having some nameless saline fluid injected into your leg. Mundane procedure, ho-hum treatment aimed at reducing ungainly and unwanted expansion of the leg veins, a condition for which I can thank my mother's family genetics. Though to be truthful, I haven't been all that thankful. Today, the knee and upper thigh of my right leg is a destined target area for this calm and cheerful needle-wielding surgeon who possesses lightning draw and meticulous aim, firing into the chosen vein locations, one round after another, quicker than Wyatt Earp at the OK Corral. Next, with brusque dexterity and brief dispatch, she attaches a small band-aid to each injection site, lassos my leg with a pair of large elastic tensor wraps. In a matter of seconds she is done, pleased, steps back, beams like a championship roper over the trussed calf. You're good to go. See you in 6 months. I read a poem for my father. Here's a poem for my mother. January 17th. I don't know why I remembered Mother's birthday, especially when my memory has sprung more holes than a bullet-riddled prairie stop sign. And considering that she has been gone over 25 years now, and were she alive to celebrate this birthday, she would be 117 years young. But mothers never grow old. They never die either. Mothers are always with us, always present in the words that leap unbidden from our mouths, in the manner we wield a potato peeler or tie our shoelaces, in a host of melodies that hum and have been embedded into the fiber of who we are. Some days, I am almost certain I hear her voice, arguing with herself, as I recall from childhood. But of course, I realize the voice is my own, just as I recognize why I have and will remember, as far as my memory will take me, the importance of this midwinter day. This poem is called Home for Sale, and it's a poem about a friend of ours who unfortunately went to visit his family in Europe and never returned. He found he had incurable cancer when he got to the other side of the water. Home for Sale. As we roll up the gravel driveway that leads to your home, the first thing I see is the vintage maroon Land Cruiser parked in its usual spot, just off the driveway, and the more upscale white Highlander on the cement pad before the attached garage, inside which last winter you established lavish quarters for several homeless cats that adopted you. I stop our vehicle, shut off the engine, and we both just sit here still a minute or two, as if we expect you to open the front door and wave, your face its usual beacon of joy. Of course, we know that where you've gone, there is no waving at anyone or anything. There is no one here to lead us off on a stroll around to see the new addition to your own Sherwood Forest, gleaned from online nurseries, local greenhouses, box stores, and supermarkets, root-balled exotica like the weeping Norway spruce to enhance your personal woodlot. This May visit marks 8 months to the day you left us, and though we know you will not burst from the house overflowing with exuberance, with stories you need to share, today, as we walk one final time past your rose garden, your summer pride, soon to become the pleasure of someone else, we know part of you remains and will, whether we ever return. In every root, in every bloom, in every thorn. Well, in my way of thinking, publishing gives people a voice. And without a voice, people are lost. So it was very important when the first literary presses started to form in Saskatchewan around 1975. And that was the beginning of the bursting of the Saskatchewan Writers Guild and the Saskatchewan Arts Board flourishing. It all came together once the people had a place where they could be published. Well, I think the first thing that I remember as a child were the nursery rhymes, the fairy tales, the stories that were told out of some of the famous books, Aesop's Fable, the Bible, Grimm's fairy tales. So storytelling was very important as a child to me, and I still remember very well some of the childhood stories. The other thing that attracted me was the musicality in language, and that has stuck to me ever since. I believe that that probably music and poetry are so interconnected, and I have been a lover of music and a lover of poetry all my life. Well, I think, first of all, Saskatchewan history has to be written and told by Saskatchewan people. And so if Saskatchewan is to be part of Canada, it has to make its voice known in the overall mix of stories and the culture and the values, the art and music, the hopes and ambitions and dreams. All of these things are part of who we are as a people, and they must be seen. They must be shared with the rest of the people in the country. I'm not sure it's an either or. I think that poetry does reflect culture, perhaps more closely than prose because of its musicality, especially. But I believe that that the music of a culture and the poetry of a culture go together so closely that sometimes they're one. They are one thing. I've always given the advice to any young poet that you must read and read and read, that you can never stop reading, because where you're going to learn to write is from other writers. And the more you read, the more you will realize what is good and what is not so good. So that's number one. The other thing I say to writers is, if you want to be a good writer, then you have to have your eyes open to the world around you at all times, because that's what a writer does. A writer is a watcher, an interpreter. He or she has to experience everything about the world that is possible to experience.